So, this week's show kicked off with the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega facing off against the Dark Order's Allin Angels. And Angels put up a good fight, but obviously he wasn't going to beat the World Champion, so Omega hit Angels with 3 V-triggers and pinned him for the win. And then he was about to continue the assault after the match, but Hangman Adam Page came out to the ring to save Allin Angels. And Page tried to hit the buckshot lariat on Omega, but Omega ducked it and got out of the ring. And then Page said that Kenny was on borrowed time as the world champion and it was going to come to an end at Full Gear. And then a vignette of Malachi Black played, and he basically said that he was barred from ringside for the Cody Andrade match, but that it wouldn't do any good. And then CM Punk came out to cut a promo, and he had 2 things to say. One being the subject of Jon Moxley, and I feel like I should say a few things about this now too, because literally that day I got his book and I was talking about how he was genuinely one of my heroes and how I couldn't wait to dive into this thing, and it seemed like the highest of highs, but then the day kind of ended in the lowest of lows with this news that he was actually kind of sick and he needed to go into rehab. And obviously this would never diminish my opinion of him. He's still always going to be one of my heroes, and I think it's very admirable that he actually went and got help. And Punk basically said a lot of the same things when he said that nobody should be criticizing Jon Moxley and that he was goddamn proud of him, because Punk knows what it's like to be sick and hurt and injured and still feel the need to trudge on, because that's what he was always taught, was to be a good little soldier and keep going and tape up injuries. And he said that there was a lot of times where he wanted to ask for help, but he felt like he was being a tough guy, so he didn't. Plus, if you ask me, even when he did ask for help, he wasn't helped at all. So he said that if there was anybody who was in a place where they felt like they needed help, to go and get it and to ask somebody, because there was nothing wrong with asking for help. And this promo gave me fucking chills, just because I think it was so real. And I think anytime you could take anything real and blend it into your work, it's always going to make for a good promo. And then he got to the second thing that he wanted to say tonight, which was about Eddie Kingston. And he basically said that on Rampage, he was going to wait for his apology for interrupting his interview on the last Rampage, which I don't think Punk is going to get. And then Alex Marvez was backstage with the Super Click, and they were interrupted by Christian Cage and Jurassic Express, and they attacked the Super Click and brought them out onto the stage. And it was there that they completely brutalized the Super Click when Matt Jackson was about to jump off the stage, but Christian Cage caught him with a spear. And Luchasaurus also took out Nick Jackson and Adam Cole by chokeslamming Nick Jackson onto Adam. And then Jungle Boy put his snare trap submission on Adam Cole and made him pass out. And then Christian Cage finished things off by putting Cole's head onto a steel chair, and then he grabbed a second steel chair and used the move that he and Edge popularized, the Concerto. And then FTR held their AAA Tag Team Title Open Challenge, and the tag team of Aerostar and the former Kalisto from WWE, now going as Samurai Del Sol, answered the challenge. And there was one point where it looked like Aerostar kind of hurt himself when he dived out and landed on Dax Harwood, but I think he might have caught his leg on the barricade. But Aerostar still managed to finish the match with Del Sol. But in the end, Dax hit Del Sol with a brainbuster on the outside, and then back in the ring, Cash Wheeler pulled Aerostar's tights and rolled him up for the win and retained their titles. And then a clip from last week played where Tony Schiavone handed Shida her plaque for finally winning 50 matches, but then Nyla Rose came up and said that she would be facing Shida next in the TBS title tournament, and it would be an easy night for her, as Shida was already going into this match damaged goods with her injured knee at the hands of Serena Deeb. And then the Inner Circle came out to reveal what members of American Top Team they wanted to face along with the Men of the Year at Full Gear in their Minneapolis street fight. And American Top Team basically presented what members they were allowed to choose from, and my money was on Junior Dos Santos, Andre Arlovsky, and I knew this last one was going to be a long shot, but Jorge Masvidal. and I got 2 for 3. They chose Junior Dos Santos, Andre Arlovsky, but the final member was Dan Lambert himself, which kind of disappointed me just because I wanted the last person to be a really big star instead of just the founder of American Top Team. And I also really wanted Jorge Masvidal to be in this match, but I felt like that was also kind of a long shot just because I knew his fight with Leon Edwards was coming up next month. And then backstage, Matt Sydal challenged Dante Martin and Lio Rush to a tag team match with his new partner Lee Moriarty. And then the Dark Order's Anna Jay took on Jamie Hayter in another match in the TBS Championship Tournament. And towards the end of the match, Anna Jay was looking for her Queenslayer submission, but Hayter had it scouted, and Rebel and Baker distracted Anna Jay and the referee enough for Hayter to capitalize with a short arm clothesline, and she pinned Anna Jay to advance in the tournament. And then Baker, Hayter, and Rebel started triple teaming Anna Jay, but then Anna Jay's best friend Ty Conti came out to fend them off and to also build up for her AEW Women's World Title match against Britt Baker at Full Gear. And Ty had a good start, but eventually the numbers game caught up to her, and Thunder Rosa ended up making the save when she came out to even the odds and cleared the ring of Baker, Rebel, and Hayter. So I imagine we're probably going to get a trios match between these 6 women before Full Gear. And then MJF came out with a microphone, and he said that he was going to be beating Darby at Full Gear, mainly because Darby was going to get too emotional. And Darby just said that he was going to get his emotions out on him right now. And as Darby started to come down from the rafters to try to get at MJF retreated, but Sting was there to stop him. And MJF's Pinnacle members, Wardlow and Shawn Spears, tried to come out to help him, but Sting had his own army, and they cleared out Wardlow and Shawn Spears while continuing to block MJF from escaping. And when MJF tried to go the other way, he walked straight into Darby Allin, and they started brawling among the fans. And the brawl ended when Darby charged at MJF and clotheslined him over the barricade, and MJF retreated. And then Cody Rhodes came out to face off against Andrade El Idolo, and with the clip that we saw before of Malachi Black was banned from ringside. And these two had a really good match, but towards the end it got really screwy again when Andrade's assistant tried to jump on the apron to help Andrade, but Arn Anderson pulled him down, and FTR even got involved by bashing Cody across the head with their AAA Tag Team Titles, and that turned out to be enough to stop Cody, as Andrade would pull Cody back into the ring and hit him with his hammerlock DDT to pin him for the win. And then FTR and Andrade El Idolo ganged up on Cody after the match, and Arn Anderson came into the ring as well and got into it with his former Four Horsemen brother, Tully Blanchard. And then eventually the tag team champions, the Lucha Brothers, came out and took out FTR, so I imagine we're going to get a 6-man tag team match soon between the team of Andrade El Idolo and FTR and the team of Cody Rhodes and the Lucha Brothers. And then Tony Schiavone interviewed John Silver in the ring about Silver's match on Rampage against Adam Cole, and Silver basically played to the bit that they had on being the Elite and said a bunch of stuff about him being Budge. I don't know, it doesn't matter, he's not going to beat Cole even if Adam Cole is injured going into it. And then Orange Cassidy took on Miro in the main event, and this was supposed to be Orange Cassidy facing off against Jon Moxley, but obviously with the news that Moxley had to go into rehab, he needed to be replaced. And to be honest, I don't think they could have chosen anybody better to replace him than Miro, because this was his big return match after losing the TNT title to Sammy Guevara back in September. But real quick, as a side note, I kind of just want to say this because I think if Jon Moxley didn't have to go away, I think he honestly would have made it to the finals to face Bryan Danielson at Full Gear. And like I said during last week's review, I think it would have been at Full Gear when Moxley turns heel. But also, Eddie Kingston was also going against fan favorite CM Punk. So I think you also could see a little bit of a heel turn there. And I was seeing reports that if Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston both turn heel, it would eventually lead to a match against the two baby faces that they turned heel on, CM Punk and Bryan Danielson. So we would end up getting a tag team match between the baby faces, Bryan Danielson and CM Punk, and the heels, Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. And that would have been amazing amazing to see, and I think it really would have happened. Also because CM Punk once said that if he had to fantasy book, the one person that he wanted to tag team with was Bryan Danielson. So I think all that will eventually happen, but it's obviously going to have to be delayed with this news that Moxley is going to be out for a little while. But anyways, that's just how I think things would have gone. But either way, Miro replaced Jon Moxley in the tournament, and he faced off against Orange Cassidy, and obviously Orange Cassidy wasn't going to be beating the returning Miro, and Orange tried to go for his orange punch, but Miro hit him with a body block, and then he made Orange tap out with his game over submission. So at the finals, it will be Bryan Danielson facing off against Jon Moxley's replacement in the tournament, Miro, for the opportunity to have a future world title match against whoever the world champion may be after Full Gear, which I'm thinking is probably going to be Adam Page. So any way you look at it, the future is pretty exciting as far as the world championship is concerned. So overall, a pretty good episode of Dynamite, and we'll see what happens on Rampage.